Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I am Cassie Jordan with TV Pipe Solutions. This is our next series of Reline Live. Today, I've got guest host Corey Park with Infra Pipe Solutions, going to be talking to us about the Weholite product that TV Pipe Solutions represents in large diameter culvert relining. Thank you, Corey, so much for doing this. I know I've been throwing these together quickly with all of us working from home. I think it's a good way for us to stay connected in the industry, and then I get to see your face, so that's always a bonus.
Well, I don't know if seeing my face is great, but appreciate you having me.
So I'm gonna let Corey do an introduction of the product. You guys have submitted a lot of really great questions. We're gonna get through as much as we can in 30 minutes. If we go a little over, we go a little over, but I will try and keep us on task. Little housekeeping for you guys. Use the question box that you see on the control panel. That is where I'm gonna be fielding questions to Corey. I'm going to be controlling the slides, asking questions. I will just interrupt him if I think we get another good one. I'm going to let him do the talking, and I'm going to do the controlling of questions and slides. So, Corey, if you know you want me to go to a certain slide, guide me that way as you're answering questions. But I think I know the product enough to help in that department. Okay.
Sounds good. You know, just as a quick introduction as to Weholite and Infra Pipe Solutions, we've been manufacturing plastic pipe really since the 1960s. We're a Canadian-based company, and there's been some evolution there. But we have two manufacturing facilities, one in Saskatoon, which is the plant that services my projects. The other is in Huntsville, Ontario. Great people, great facilities. I think top-of-the-line managers that run a great facility, very efficient. And so we're excited for what we do. We're one of the largest plastic pipe producers in North America and in Canada especially. Really over 100 million pounds of HDPE pipe. And we build or extrude both solid wall as well as engineered structures or Weholite, which is a slight difference. And so we've been making Weholite since the early 1980s. And you know, really applicable in a lot of arenas, but particularly Culvert Reline, which I'm excited to talk about today. So
cool. So that leads me to one of the first questions that we got in last week from someone that registered is, what makes the profile wall different than solid wall pipe?
Okay, good question. So we you know, both HDPE, but solid wall, again, solid wall pipe. Profile wall was developed for multiple reasons. One of those was to create larger diameters with lighter weight. Obviously, if we were making a large pipe, which can be done, it'd be extremely heavy, extremely costly to use that much HDPE. And so this concept of a profile wall was developed and has been brought to the market. There's a slide, Cassie, that shows our profile.
Yep.
And there's multiple profiles out there. This is the profile that we manufacture. We make diameters from 18 inches, but really are applicable in diameters exceeding 60 inches and up all the way to 132 inch. And it's ID controlled the way we manufacture it. So you can see a box there. This is our extrusion, what we extrude. It's a box profile. I'm not good at aiming at the camera, but if you can get an idea of that. And so as that's extruded, it's as it's still warm, it's wrapped around a mandrel, it's welded internally and externally, and creates what we like to say like an I-beam that's wrapped helically around itself and welded to itself. And so we get a lot of strength like with that. You imagine a bunch of I-beams. It's something similar to what they do in bridge construction with steel to create lighter weight but high strength. And so, you know, that's really the huge difference between the two. We could create bigger diameters and at the same time performance strengths. So it's a lighter lighter material and easier to install, easier to use standard equipment. You don't need heavy cranes to lift it, move it around on certain applications, but still performs like other standard materials that are used in water applications today, like concrete and other applications. So,
well, and that's that I kind of, you just led me into another question someone asked. Someone asked how Weholite was designed for culvert reline industry, and I know we have a slide on this, Corey. I might have to go back. Here's kind of a lot of the industries that you guys play in. Obviously, Culvert Reline's one of them. And then I
Right.
can jump ahead to this one.
Yeah, so you know, it obviously fits well, and that's been a big part of our business since the 1980s when we developed Weholite, or when it was first coming out. It's been a big aspect of it, and something that I think is important. I think, you know, we see when we look at the root of the problem of what we're dealing with and why Weholite works well in Culvert Reline. Infrastructure is getting older, and you know, I think back to the boulder floods that happened in Colorado not too long ago, a few years back. Just as things become more dense, more densely populated, we're seeing changes in weather patterns. There's a huge need for larger structures, for improving our infrastructure as well as it gets older. And so Weholite really works with that because of its values, and its design is beneficial in Culvert Reline because of the strength parameters that we get out of Weholite, and at the same time, lighter weight, easier to install, longer lengths. So in these Reline applications where multiple items have been used in the past traditionally, they, you know, good items, they work, they've been used for a long time, they'd start to meet that design life, and now it's time to look at other options. Budgets are being cut. It's difficult to reline these or to work with these items multiple times. People don't want to come back. And so we have a long design life, very beneficial. It's 100+ year design life with Weholite. So you have something that's going to last for a long time. Its values really play well into Culvert Reline. It's abrasion resistant. It's resistant to chemicals, which we often run into. Different soil characteristics that are corroding and erosive to other materials that are used. And so it's inert to that. And so we find a lot of value in that with Culvert Reline and Weholite.
So I want to definitely get into the two different types of joints you guys offer. I know that sets you apart from some other products out there. So I'm going to skip ahead because I know that this question's going to come up, so I'm just going to proactively say, let's go talk about it.
For sure. Joints. And the first joint that we use, we're water people, and so we want to manage water well. And to us, our best method is to join these with a weld. On the screen, you'll see our threaded joint. That's our other application. We use this a lot in Reline because
so here's the welded one I'm showing, Corey. So you want to start with that?
Or yeah, let's talk about
that.
Okay. So welded is our most preferred method, and welded, depending on the operation, something to bring up about Weholite, it's a low pressure gravity application. So the other difference between Weholite and a solid wall HDPE is solid walls will handle higher pressures. Weholite's really intended for pressures under 30 PSI or up to 30 PSI. It's just the nature of the material that we make and the applications that we're targeting. And so in this particular instance, our welded joint, most preferred, and it really plays well to creating a solid piece of pipe once it's welded. So we weld it together, it's not gonna leak, we're not gonna lose water, we're not gonna infiltrate and erode soil under the pipe, and you're gonna have a good design for a long period of time. Our threaded, oh, did you have something, Cassie?
I do. You saw my face. I was like, wait, we got a
I get to blabbing, so just throw something up.
No, we have a really good question. While you're still on the welded pipe, do you have any type of whale seal for the internal welding of the Weholite? So someone obviously knows this product a little bit about whale seal.
Well, I'll ask them the question. No, but so we do have wheel seal as well. And wheel seal, it's a HDPE wrap. And we use it quite frequently in Culvert Reline and with our threaded joints as well. And the reason is, depending on the application, the pressure. If we're welding, you know, we're going to weld the internal diameter of the pipe on low pressure applications. When we get into higher pressure applications, we may do either a full penetration weld or an internal external weld, depending on the operation. On threaded, we're typically looking at a Culvert Reline, so we're going to thread that pipe together. It's going to twist together and lock itself in. But we consider that a soil tight seal. It's not a water tight seal.
Okay.
And so in the grouting process, you may get some slight infiltration of the water associated with the grout as it comes out of it and cures. And that at times can be of concern. It's not a process or anything that's going to hinder the application or hinder the grout. But they don't want to see that coming through the joint. And so we'll wrap it with Weosil. Weosil is a thin HDPE material that we put around the wrap. You heat it with a torch and a roller.
I'm gonna ask you how it's installed. Okay.
Yeah, so then it seals to the pipe, or it covers that joint during grouting so that we don't get that infiltration of the water.
Okay. Can you use weld seal on the outside of the pipe and not weld the inside of the pipe? Is that an acceptable weld?
We wouldn't see it as a joined method. Now, if you're going to grout around it or put a concrete, collar around it, something of that application, you could use it for infiltration, but we don't see it as a joining method per se. We see it as an application to help with the joining.
So that kind of answers another question about weld seal. They're asking if using it as an approved way of joining plane and Weholite, does it fall under the same ASTM as extrusion welding? And it sounds like it does not.
Well, I can go back to the engineers on that we work with. We have a great engineering team in-house. And again, we want to look at the application, but Weosil we don't really see as a joining method.
Okay.
Weosil is it's something that we use to protect the joints, or we would have other requirements around that under the ASTM, under the soil backfill on a direct bury, or how that's being applied to be used.
It sounds like it's just a good secondary product to put over like the threaded joints and things like that.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay, got it. So I know we have a couple of really cool projects that we want to show, and we actually had a question come in from a contractor municipality that says they're looking at lining a 96-inch CMP and they're curious about the process. So I want us to get to that, but I do want to talk about because we had a question come in, what the difference is of your product versus other profile wall, if I can talk, pipes on the market.
Okay. Which one do you want me to dive into?
Let's start with the difference, and then let's go to some projects. I think that'll answer the question of this person looking at lining a 96-inch, because you can show some of the projects that you've done and they can kind of see, because they're also curious about the method. And I think you kind of walk us through that, right?
Yeah. So,
and I think I have a slide. Tell me where you want me to go on this one.
Well, these are some of the differences between us, and obviously we all manufacture. There are some other profile wall pipes on the market, as well as some other large diameter applications, and so we each have our own subtle differences. And I think one of the big ones, particularly that we hold to, or something that's important to us, is how we manufacture and why we manufacture the way we do. We're water people. That's why we maintain a welded joint. And we have technicians that either come out and assist with that weld, or in some applications, particularly Reline, if people are familiar with extrusion welding, we have worked with them in the past. It's important that the engineer doing the standards and the specifications and controlling the project understand that if somebody else is doing the extrusion welding, that they're certified to do that or they know how to. So our values are important to us, and not only important to us to put those out there, but to have those supported by third-party support or third-party proof on that. So we maintain an NSF certification each and every year, frequent inspections, frequent checks on our material. That's valuable to us, that's important to us, because we just don't want to publish that we meet the ASTM standards. We want certification from third parties. We also do a lot of internal testing and can support that with our internal testing as well. But it's important to us, so we maintain that. We do have ISO certification on our facilities, that processes in place, and that we have processes that we're following each and every day. So that's one of the key separations, or something that we find very important, is that not only we publish what we do, but we have others to support that it meets the specifications and standards of the ASTM. So we all manufacture under ASTM F894. There's differences, different arrays of profile. They either extrude a smooth pipe and put round profiles on the back of it to strengthen it, different things like that. This is the method that we go with, and something that's important to us. we feel that we manufacture a very good product that has performed well since 1983. So
perfect. We actually got this question just now on chat that you and I talked about yesterday, because we already had it before too. How do you handle bends and lateral connections?
okay.
I know we have a slide, so I'm going to think this is one of them, right? The fabricated fittings.
Yeah, so one way to look at Weholite is Weholite, it's a raw material, and it has a lot of applications, and it really, you think it up and we can figure out a way to make it work. We have a great, I mentioned we have a great engineering team in-house to work and help support, as well as drafting on projects. So you know, a lot of these we're solving problems on the go, and that's the exciting thing about Weholite. We're water people. It's important to us to find solutions. So one of those is our custom fabrication, and a key element of that is that we're fabricating off-site, and it shows up ready to be installed, which is a huge cost savings to municipalities, that it's prefabricated, ready to be installed. One of those on bends is the pipe will bend. It'll bend based on the radius, up to 200 times the radius of the bend. And so in culverts, where we often don't have in a perfect world, we have a nice straight shot and everything would just slide right in. It's not always the case. And so we can bend these through railing and through the install. If that doesn't work, we can also fabricate elbows. And the difficult aspect at that point would be we would need to get the elbow in place and then align to the elbow, which can be troublesome or require other lining ditches to be installed, and sections along the roadway. So that's one way to handle it. The other is just in the pushing and pulling process to see if we can make the radius bend, and we would need to measure those and see if that can happen.
But this is, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have engineers in-house, so if someone brings a project to you, or me, which we work with you guys, so when we're helping custom design these projects, if myself, Michael, Kelly, those are my sales guys in the field, if we get a call, we just get your engineering team involved and we work out the design, right? I mean, that's
for sure.
Yeah.
And that's the raw material aspect of it is, you know, bring projects to us, bring them to you, and we can work together and collaborate. You know, a lot of our solid wall material, it's a commodity material. It's something that we extrude and we send out. Weholite isn't. It's something that takes some collaboration, work with people, and teaming with those groups, the engineers, the municipalities, and it's something that we do. My background is in consulting. That's what I enjoy, and solving problems. So
yeah, same. I like working with the customers. That's why we do what we do, right? And that's why our face is on camera right now.
Well,
yeah. Usually we're face to face with them, but now it's webinar videos, whatever. Okay, I want to jump ahead to some of these projects so we can show this potential customer kind of what the process looks like. I have another good question, but I'm going to save it till the end.
Okay.
Oh, ovalized. This is an option. I know we haven't talked about it much. Weholite can be ovalized, I believe, up to the full 132 inch, correct?
It can, yeah, and it's just the process of doing it. I know you, you know, we've had ovalizing as far as material installed in the field where they do that. We work very closely with you because you have ovalizers up to certain diameters, and
we have ovalized Weholite previously for other jobs. Yep.
Yeah, and that's helpful to us on the West Coast, to be able to send projects through you as well to have that done. And so it's a great team partnership there. So
yeah, we can save a lot of money because if it comes out of the West, out of Saskatoon, it can come straight into Idaho and be ovalized. So that's a really good option for people.
For sure.
Okay, just didn't want to miss that slide. I know you discussed some of the profile wall. I just want to show this slide really quick. There are different, and you're going to be able to explain this just briefly a little bit better, the classifications. So when someone brings us a project, we do have classifications of profile strength and ring stiffness depending on ground cover, all those sort of things, correct?
Correct. And a key element to just touch on briefly here, we could spend a lot of time on this.
I know we can.
Yeah,
I don't want to go in the weeds. This is an engineering conversation, but it's good for people to know that the options are there. And that's why we bring in engineers to help us figure out which one of these classifications is needed.
correct. Under the ASTM F894, there's multiple pipe stiffnesses that are accepted under that, or ring stiffness constant. And there's a subtle difference there, but it is a difference. Most people working with HDPE solid wall work with a pipe stiffness. It's different than a ring stiffness constant. And so when we look at strength or performance of the pipe, we're looking at a ring stiffness constant, which is under the ASTM F894. It's a percentage. You could see the equation there. We could dive deeply into it if you'd like, but I don't have my glasses to put those on. And
yeah, that's the small print on that screenshot right there. Okay, I wanted people to know that's something we talk about, and that's how we value engineer these projects, right? So we look into this stuff once we know more about what we're looking at. This is the testing you talked about. This is the internal testing and external testing that you guys have done on the pipe itself, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we have a full scale deflector that we're testing the material on, as well as testing welds daily, localized buckling, things of that nature. So
yeah. All right. I'm going to jump into projects. This is the stuff that I get excited about.
We had talked about different unions and acceptance or joints of different materials. And so this is a good project. A stormwater overflow project. It was an inline CSO project, so you can see some different diameters and some example in the picture where the gentlemen are holding onto a smaller diameter a pipe here in the bottom of the photo. But also on this project, we had a union between some dissimilar materials. So we had a concrete CMP pipe that was being let into this, as well as in the back, you could see some PVC piping that we needed to accept joints here. And so we could join the dissimilar materials. We do a lot of vertical structures. So we do a lot of manhole applications, pump houses, wet wells, and all of those have different piping coming into them. Or we could do a full system out of Weholite and solid wall as well. So something that came up, the other application or something that comes up in culverts is that at times we'll have lateral culverts coming into a reline. And and we, as long as we know those are there, we can plan those out. We can either through after installation go in and create unions there through different pipes and welding so that we have a leak-free application. Again, it's just a collaborative effort, but we can accept and accommodate all of those applications. So.
And I just want to point out, so on this slide, I just noticed it was an 84-inch RSC 250. So when we were talking about classifications and the strength of the profile, that's what Corey and I were referring to. So that this is stronger. This is, correct me if I'm wrong, you've got 160, 250, is that right?
And 400 are our standards that we.
Are your standards? Okay, so this is in the middle. I just wanted to kind of understand the strengths. Okay, I'm gonna go to, oops, here we go. This next one from Portland, Maine.
A good project to show some of the customization that we're able to accommodate. On this, we had two pipes that were perpendicular to each other crossing and a restricted soil cover. And so we needed to have the flow. So you can see we have a round Weholite that was being installed. We actually created a reducer down to an ovalized pipe, ovalized Weholite, to create separation between the two pipes that were crossing, and then had a kind of a joint that came up and almost an inverted siphon or a siphon going vertically instead of running underneath the pipe, to accommodate that. So really interesting customization solutions that were provided by our engineering staff on how do we accommodate this and make everything run and keep the flows that we needed together. And so this was an interesting project that we were involved with. So.
Sorry, I skipped ahead. Yeah, that's. And even though it's sewer, it's just showing how each job, whether it's culvert, reline, or any other application, can be custom fabricated.
For sure. Tanner Creek was yeah. Here we go.
All the time. I love this picture.
So I think we installed this in 2009 was when this was installed. So before I was involved with the company, but you know, again, an interesting project. So this particular one had at one point had about 30 feet of cover over the top of it, and that's something important to bring up with Weholite and a lot of DOTs. They want to ensure that you're excluding the material that is there and that the pipe can handle the load over the top of it, you know, on its own. And so that's something that needed to be designed for, needed to be checked. And so we relined a failing CMP in this application and met its design life and was starting to erode. And so we relined it with 66-inch HDPE Weholite and had a really cost-saving approach to this reline, as well as something that comes up often is the flow aspect of Weholite. Weholite has a very low Manning number. It's 0.01. And so looking at strictly flow, it'll carry a lot more water because it's not a turbulent flow. It has a very smooth profile
Right.
running through it.
And then I can see the grout tubes in there. So once the pipe slipped in, then you just go in with the grout pump and grout around it.
Up the annulus, yeah.
Yeah. And that is a question we got that goes back to an install. And so for those of you that are interested in learning more about grout, we have Don LeBlanc who's doing a whole 30 minutes on grout on Thursday for Reline Live. So go ahead and register for that one. You'll learn everything you possibly want to learn, I think, about grouting. Or even maybe you'll still have questions, who knows?
This was a larger install, 190 linear feet. And I think there's a good one. This was in Cleveland, Ohio. It's a private community. They had a 120-inch CMP that had met its design life. And so we were installing this. This had 35 feet of soil cover and
Wow.
was installed very limited. The key here was there's very limited access to this community, kind of one road in, and they were worried about multiple trucks to dig and replace. They had a lot of concern there. And so slip lining was a valuable option to them. You could see on the large photo, they're banding up that joint to weld it internally. So we have temporary bands that help align everything. The weld can then be applied. It becomes one piece of pipe and then we move down the line. So
nice. Okay. This is the Wyoming project you and I discussed yesterday.
Yeah, so smaller, a little bit smaller diameter, but a remote location. And so Wyoming DOT, they saw that this was something they needed to replace. This was one that I was involved with, as well as working with Snap Guide ISCO. So
yeah, remote in Wyoming, how is that possible?
Yeah, you know, who knew? So
Yeah.
and their first day they had snow and a moose. So I didn't
Sure.
but you know, an interesting project, went in very quickly, and welded joints that we worked with on ISCO actually welded these on the project. And so very good teaming partner with them, and we value that relationship as well. So you know, with you being associated with them also.
Yeah. I have this is probably going to be our final question. I think I'll double check while you're answering this. I think I got through all of them. If a project is deemed as Buy America, is Weholite acceptable in those projects being as it's produced in Canada?
That's a good question.
That's a good question.
So
that was not one we even thought we would get.
yeah, no, that's a good one. We have in the past, we did have manufacturing facilities in America at one time, or in North America, in California. So we've worked under different entities. We have worked on projects where, depending on the acceptance of the government, they've allowed us as a built-in America material. So we can work through that at times, depending on the application. We haven't been allowed, and so it's just something to work through because we are in North America, or we are in Canada, our two facilities currently. You know, who knows what the future leads. That's the exciting thing under InfraPipe. We have a lot of options under the InfraPipe nomiker. So that we're currently private equity owned, really valuable relationship with them, and continue to grow and really own our own destiny. So it's an exciting time for us. and an exciting time to see Weholite be more accepted. I think you're seeing, particularly in DOT applications, because budgets are being cut, it's really the material that is growing in DOT application. When you look at some of the statistics, a lot of other materials are not being accepted or aren't being used as frequently where
Yeah.
HDPE is.
No, I think that was a really good question, because it's not one that we really think of a lot, but it's definitely something that we are asked to provide at times. I get asked that with SnapTide a lot, to provide the Buy America certification. So it sounds like we can just maybe work with either the municipality, DOT, whoever spec'd that in as a Buy America. You just need to maybe get their approval to
work through that.
Yeah, to use with Inverpipe. Okay. So I think that's it. I checked my list. I've gotten all of our questions answered. We have like literally only gone 2 minutes over, which I call that pretty successful. I try and keep these right at 30 minutes. Okay, everybody, I've already got two. I have my third Reline Live coming. So we've got one Thursday, one next Tuesday, and I think I've already got someone on the hook for next Thursday too. Sorry, next Tuesday, next Thursday. So check tvpipesolutions.com, click under social Reline Live. You can register for all of them there, see what's upcoming. I'm going to continue to bring you manufacturers, contractors, whoever I think would be interesting as a host, to really kind of keep conversations going so that we're all learning and, you know, keep the spirit alive while we're stuck at home.
And not coughing on each other. So that's beneficial.
Right. Yeah. All right, thank you guys. The recording will be up on the website of this later day. Corey, thank you so much. I think this was a fantastic Reline Live. I know I learned some stuff, so that's all that we can hope for at the end of the day. Thank you guys.
Thank you.